Hello, YouTube, and welcome back to Build Divide Worldwide. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jay. Today, we're going to be going over the Fukuoka Regional that we'll be attending next weekend and our thoughts on the current meta.
That is correct. We'll be giving you guys a scoop on Japan's meta, comparing the decks that appeared in the Osaka Regional last year to this one in Fukuoka, and what we'll expect to appear, as well as the decks that we're thinking of bringing.
So, let's get started by going over the decks that were represented in the last to recent tournament.
Starting with the second session's Osaka, or Kansai Area Regional. The deck that was most represented, as we talked about in the analytics video, was Margareta. Contrary to that, she didn't top 8. Next was Bloom, Ishtarte, Rebecca, Lionel, and Sakuya. Those were the top 5.
You skipped Iora.
Oh, did I? Oh, there was Iora.
Balbabion.
Yeah, that was our first territory. I'm surprised about that.
Yeah, because in the first session, Iora's Mega Drag was the second most represented deck in the format.
Yeah.
So that's changed.
Yeah, it seems to have fallen off in popularity. But I still think it's a good deck, though.
Yeah, Margareta though. I mean, there's only been one tournament so far, so there's not much to go off of.
Yeah.
But still, Margareta having 13% representation and not top 8ing is pretty hard hit on that deck.
Yeah. Not looking good for the red and white deck so far. We do have new aces coming up in February after the Fukuoka Regional, but until then, Margareta's all we got. Decks that did top 8 at the Regional were Rebecca, Bloom, Lionel, and one Iris.
A lot of unexpected decks appearing in the top, but it's to be expected with all the new cards.
I don't know if people weren't using Ishtarte as much. It definitely has dropped from the most represented deck, but I do feel like she's still good.
I think it's just because people were looking at
they're bored of her?
Margareta. They were looking at Margareta and being like, "Holy cow, this card is dumb." But then they couldn't flesh out the deck. I think it's still gonna be represented, but just for the diehard fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving on to popularity from the first session.
Yes, this is the final battle, or it's better known as Worlds to most people, I think.
Yeah, the Worlds tournament. It's a little bit different than normal regionals, so we'll have to explain that real quick.
The format for Worlds is that each player takes 2 decks and matches are played in a best of 3. So whoever wins with their 2 decks first wins the match.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a round robin. If you win with one deck, you cannot play it again, and you have to switch decks, but your opponent has to stick with their deck that they lost with. Right?
Yes. I believe that is the case. So, contrary to Margareta's, this just blows Margareta's popularity out of the water, actually. Ishtarte has 20% representation.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
No, she was the best deck by far.
And she kept evolving.
She
kept evolving and getting new cards too with the tech with Kimetsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer, the Giyu card that was everybody's teching in.
Yeah, everybody was teching in Giyu for the Kyushu tournament, at least, that we went to last year. What Giyu does, for people that don't know, is if you remove 2 Kimetsu no Yaiba commands from your graveyard, he cannot be targeted for the rest of the turn. It's basically having a smoke discharger on a unit that is also 6/5, has decoy, and deals 2 hits.
And can be summoned by... what's her face?
Diana's.
Yeah, and you can get the Kimetsu no Yaiba cards for free because all of the Capital Breakers and Norowareta Kirifuda are... the art changes, but... it's the same card. It just has a trait for Kimetsu no Yaiba Demon Slayer.
Yep.
So it's free.
So that's 8 Kimetsu no Yaiba cards, because people were still running Boryaku, the 3-cost -6k -1 hit. So you have 4 instances of being invulnerable to targeting.
Yeah.
at max.
And the second most popular deck was Bloom with her roulette, the Yu-Gi-Oh. And then the
I think
deck
Bloom's
that
always gonna be popular though.
yeah, and then the deck that I represented was Megidrag, Iora and Megidrag.
Megidrag, I think it's still good. I just think there's so many new decks to choose from and so many new cards from set 7 that people want to try those out.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
think that's what happened.
Megidrag is as strong as it used to be compared to the new Iora. Because they didn't
Oh,
release any new targeting spells.
no, that is true. Or
And
low cost units for Iora.
and he just dies so fast.
He, that is true. He can also is unable to be targeted by your opponent's territory.
Yeah, so basically Bloom.
Bloom or Rebecca.
Yeah, true.
And then fourth was Claudia, surprisingly. I think people are undervaluing Claudia's meta because she is a unit that gets in for free.
And rushes down, yeah. And she won the first regional.
She did.
So that's probably why she's stuck in there. But it's iffy if this game lets you rush or not.
That's true.
Okay, so
What I personally am thinking is going to show up, I think a lot of people are going to bring Lionel because it has performed well in the last 2 tournaments. Lionel has topped at the Worlds and it has topped at Kansai Regional. It won Kansai Regional last
yeah.
month. I do think people are going to bring Bloom because I think they're always going to bring Bloom. And today, before we recorded this, actually, there was another 128 person tournament at the Build Divide fan meeting, and the winner of that was Rebecca, who won over Badgertos.
Wow.
So I do think Rebecca is going to be more represented this time around as well.
Yeah, I think that Lionel's definitely going to show up in mass because it's just really strong against the current aces that try to revive themselves. I do think that somebody is going to put a Margreta in the top 8 because I think that deck is really underrated compared to the results that it's put out so far. And just this game is very play what you want to play based, right?
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of fluidity in the top, like, what people can consider the top 8 territories or the top 8 aces.
Yeah. There's
I feel like
just
it's very
enough,
dependent on the tournament.
there's just enough luck based to make almost any deck capable of winning. It's just winning consistently is the problem.
Yeah. Some decks that I think are going to be underrated. I think Melissa's meta hasn't really been developed yet. It does run out of resources really fast.
Yeah,
But
it's hard removal.
the ability to pump your units by 10k per turn is very powerful, I think. If somebody combines that with abilities that allow your units to be summoned from the energy zone, I think that could be a very powerful deck. And one more I'm thinking is Battertos, actually. It was represented at the 128-man tournament, but so far it's had lackluster showing in the regionals and worlds. But that deck just puts out big daddies with large hits. And there's really not a lot you can do to stop it.
Yeah, Badgertos himself as an ace is very strong. You can't interrupt his combo to summon a dragon or like a really big 11 cost from your life. And 9 cost. And he heals himself. So it's like best of both worlds.
His territory itself negates some of what the weakness of the deck is, which is that you don't have an early game. You don't really have an early game to combat early pressure. But the fact that every time you summon a 7 cost or higher from then on, your territory triggers and you gain a life, and you sort of steadily are able to come back into the game.
Yeah, and you can also run the 6 cost that gives you a life as well if you're in red zone.
You could.
So it's a very annoying deck to go up against if you can't handle the dragon that can't be targeted.
Fun fact, that combo was actually played at the 128-man tournament. I caught the end of the stream. And Rebecca just dealt with it by ignoring it.
Yeah, because it can't block.
Nope, it can't block, so Rebecca just ignored it and went face with tiny units. It was really sad how Badger Toast lost that. Because he had the 3 cost -1 hit in hand. He was taking 2 hits from Yarmila, the 6 cost that becomes a 9 cost, or a 9k if all your energy is rested. He took the first hit and rested the second unit that Rebecca had. And he had the option before taking the second hit to subtract 1 hit from Yarmila and not take it. He had 3 life remaining. However, he took the hit, and all 3 of those cards ended up being busters.
That's the name of the game.
That was super unfortunate to watch.
That's awful.
He would have won the next turn too.
Yeah, that's why you have to stop the damage when you can.
You have to respond. All of the Rebecca's energy was rested. She could not have responded to anything.
Yeah, so
he should have played that card. I felt really bad for him.
You can use your life as a resource, but you're also gambling that you're gonna hit a bunch of busters and just lose off of it. But if you don't, it's a very strong resource to use.
For sure.
Now that we've given you a rundown of what we're expecting, a little bit of underrated decks and some insight into the tournaments, let's check on what decks we're actually planning on playing. How about you, Josh?
For me, even though we were kind of shitting on her representation earlier, I'm planning to play one of 3 decks. For me, I'm trying to decide between Margreta. I do think the deck has potential. I also, like I said about Melissa, I think the meta is underdeveloped. And a lot of people were trying combos with her that didn't really work. So for Margreta, her text says specifically that you have to play a card. So that means playing from hand or playing off of a shot. You cannot use the keyword summon, Toujosuru, to activate her ability to stand herself. I think a lot of people were misunderstanding about that in the first tournament. That being said, I don't know how competitive she will actually be. The second deck I'm thinking about is Rebecca. Territory 1, of course. That is a tried and true deck. Very consistent because it draws a lot and discards a lot and allows you to fix your hand and try to grab cards, or the ideal cards to place in your energy, which are your territory openers. And the third one is Bloom. I do think Bloom, her first territory, is just very strong. The only downside of it is that it's like the show, or like the art indicates, it's a gamble. If you don't have any way to scout the top of your deck, which not many of the decks run now, you're just gambling on whether you'll hit a buster or not. So yeah, those are the 3 that I'm thinking of playing. How about you, Jay?
So I've been going back and forth between 2 decks. The first one was Lionel because it fits my playstyle of very strategic aggression. And it's had such a good showing. It's very consistent and it does counter most of the current aces that try and revive themselves because Lionel will just kill them again. The second deck would be Black and Blue Iora with her new territory that lets her choose 1 cards and choose all of the effects instead, choosing 2 effects. I think there are many cards in the set in the game that have two effects that by themselves, if you had to choose between them, aren't very powerful, but combined, the card becomes very strong. And it's a control deck that has hand destruction, which I always think is very powerful. So I'm gonna have to decide between one of those decks and see where it goes.
Well said. Thanks for watching. Obviously, we'll update the channel when we go to Fukuoka and make a video afterwards detailing what decks we saw. If you haven't seen the giveaway we're doing, go check that out in the video. It'll happen at 50 subs, so please consider subscribing today. We have been Jay and Josh from Build Divide Worldwide, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.
See you next time.